Alright guys, so welcome to the vlog. So just about to crack on with some markups. So I'm going to just go ahead and basically prep my charts for tomorrow, see what the levels I'm looking at are, see what the overall sort of directional bias is heading into the day. I'll also just go back through and review today's price action, any of the trades that I took, any of the missed opportunities that I had. But yeah, overall, essentially, just going to take you on a full day of trading tomorrow. We might get a trade, we might not, but at the moment, price action is developing very nicely, so it does look promising, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, welcome to the video, and let's get straight into it. Right, so it's currently Friday at 8 a.m. London session is underway. Let me show you guys what I'm looking at for the day ahead. Okay, so today we'll start off with GBP/USD. For anyone new here, the only pairs I trade are GU, Gold, and EU. So let's just do a quick rundown of what we could see today, some potential trades we could look at. So GU at the moment, overall, higher time frame wise, what we're expecting is for price to gravitate towards this liquidity level that we have at around 1.3046. In terms of the weekly narrative, you guys can see bullish structure is still being held. We've had this huge sort of parabolic rally recently, lots of momentum coming into the market. So I'm very simply looking for a pullback now to continue buying up towards this liquidity level. And in scenarios like this, one thing that I always like to ask is, if we look to the left, right, what is the probability that price reverses from here, given that it hasn't swept any liquidity? And also given that it has not taken or tapped into a valid level of supply? I would say it's very unlikely. So what we're seeing at the moment is just likely to be a pullback rather than a complete reversal. Especially looking to the left, you can kind of see this is just like a retail resistance. So what I'm actually looking for today is to see if price can come lower, tap into one of these two POIs that I have marked, and then present a lower time frame confirmation. So something like this, if we can get a sweep into this first level, followed by a structure shift on the lower time frame, or if price can come slightly lower and tap into this more discounted level, that would also be nice for a potential entry. And the reason I have this lower one marked on, you sort of may be asking, is this would sort of correspond with seeing price take out the last bit of internal liquidity before you have this big imbalanced push just here. And when that happens, essentially all of the previous buys in the range are taken out. Price is very likely to present some sort of reaction, whether that be a complete move like this or whether it just be a pullback for eventual lower prices. Doesn't really matter, because we can still look to take advantage of this move right here, because that's going to give us a decent range to work with on the lower time frames. Euro USD is very much similar. So in terms of the recent price action, weekly time frame wise, we have had, after a sweep of these lows, we've had this huge rally, lots of momentum coming into the market. So what you're seeing at the moment is very likely just going to be a retracement for eventual higher prices. I don't think this is likely to be a reversal, particularly because, if you just look at the candles prior to this, you had this huge momentum candle, lots of volume coming into the market. It did sweep these highs to the left, but I think based on the lack of intent here, this is likely just to be a pullback for eventual higher prices. I am expecting price to come slightly lower before we see that next leg of the trend up though. So yesterday, me and VIP were actually looking for buys from this first liquidity level, but price failed to show any sort of intent to the upside, as you guys can see. At the moment, we're kind of just stuck in this range. It didn't really present any valid entries. So what I'm expecting this morning is for price just to continue into these lows and then come slightly lower now. I'm not really interested in selling because my higher time frame idea is still bearish, and there's also not a valid POI for me to look for sells. But the overall idea is very much similar to GU in that I'm looking for price to come down, sweep the last internal low before we have this daily imbalance, and then look for that lower time frame to flip back bullish before looking to take price back up towards these highs essentially. So overall, those two pairs need a little bit more time to develop. So we'll see if they can come lower today, and see if we can capitalize on a nice setup there, because they do look very nice in terms of that higher time frame narrative and clear POIs that we have, or that price has formed. Gold as well is looking very nice, although again it does need a little bit more time to develop, I think. In terms of daily time frame, at the moment, you've obviously had this parabolic rally in price. The only thing that's been difficult about this to trade, obviously the direction is, it's very obvious. Price is bullish, we're only looking to buy, or in my case, we're only looking to buy. However, the thing about this is when price is moving with this sort of, this sort of momentum, it's very hard to get in on any entries, because you can see price is just doing these like 1 or 2 single candle pullbacks and then rallying to the next level. And the thing about this is that if you were to buy anywhere like sort of here, you would be buying in a premium, which for me at least is low probability, so I wouldn't really want to be doing that. The last sort of opportunity that price did present was last Friday, and then all of this week really price has just been rallying with no valid entry opportunities. But what I am looking for now, like I said, price is still very much bullish. Given that we've had this huge move up, you're not expecting price to just suddenly reverse and head back down towards the lows. If price is going to present a reversal, you would expect it to sort of develop some structure first. Maybe, like fail to break the high, then break lower, and then present that clear intent to the downside. Until that happens, I'm only interested in buying price. And the next level that I have marked for this is this area of daily demand we have down here. So either if price can come into this, then present an entry, or if it can come slightly lower, take out the low of that demand just into the imbalance below, and then we can see price maybe react from there. If you also take a look at the 4-hour time frame, you can see we have this clear area of demand, which was the origin of this big push up essentially. We have that area of liquidity developing above it as well. So if price can come down into this level, this would sort of be like the optimal region to be looking to capitalize on those buying opportunities. Originally, I was also looking at this liquidity level right here, which was the current high or low. However, again, like with Euro USD, lack of intent is kind of throwing me off this trade. There's not really a clear entry here. Looking to the left as well. Sometimes, like when I'm looking for the entry, I'll always wait for the structure shift. But this one right here for me is not valid because the main structure was this one. So this was the current breaker structure. And then this up here was the current lower high. This is just internal structure. So it's kind of just like noise to me. I don't want to enter based off that. So overall, looking for price to come lower, looking for it to trade towards this area of demand, and then look to continue buying price from there. So we'll see what shapes up today. One thing I have just done as well is I just got off the daily live call with VIP where we went through all of these setups for the day ahead, and I also sent in the detailed markups into the Discord as well, as you guys can see here. So we do these sort of detailed markups every single morning just to get the guys prepped for the day ahead and any setups that I am looking for. Sometimes we'll also call trades live. Like I did yesterday, I called a nice USD JPY 1 to 3 trade for the guys. So overall, waiting for price to develop a little bit more. While I wait for that, I'm going to take this time to work on some other things. So some more content, some more thumbnails for this YouTube video, probably some editing, and overall just looking to be productive, stay productive while we wait for price to come into our zones. And what I'll usually do as well is I will set alerts at these levels so that I don't have to spend time sitting here, just like staring at the charts, because that's just a complete waste of time in my opinion. If price is not going to present a valid trade until it comes to a certain area, then there's literally 0 sense in staring at the charts. You may as well go away, do some more productive things, work on other projects, do a workout, whatever it may be, and set alerts at those zones. So I'm going to wait for price to develop and I'll update you guys in a bit. Alright guys, so it's now 1 PM, so just a quick update. Price hasn't still really done much. If you look on the charts, we've kind of just stayed in that consolidation. Price hasn't really done a lot. It hasn't tapped into a valid POI yet, so kind of just still waiting for that to develop. We might see the push in New York session. So like I said this morning, if we do see a push down to this zone, we could look for the buys. But apart from that, I'm not really looking for anything else. So what I was about to do is actually just journal the USD JPY trade that I called live for the members yesterday inside our daily live call. So I thought I'd hop on the charts, break that trade down for you guys because it was a very clean position, taking advantage of the system that I currently use. So let's hop over to the charts now. I'll break that down for you guys, and then we'll see throughout the rest of the day whether we get any trades as well. And guys, real quick before we get into the trade breakdown, here is the recording of yesterday's daily live call where I called this trade live for VIP. So check this out just beforehand for proof. Get in here, and then as for targets, probably you have this first level and then you have this next one. I'd be careful with a reaction from these two levels, but yeah, apart from that, it does look quite good for buying up to those levels. In terms of that higher time frame narrative, I'm still bullish at the moment because it didn't. All right, guys, so thanks for joining me here over on the chart. So let's go right from the beginning here. So essentially what I was looking at on UJ, right, was I was aware of the fact that the daily narrative was still bearish. The current sort of leg of the trend that we were looking at was this daily bearish leg right here. That's the one that caused the breaker structure, and prior to that you also had a mitigation of this sort of supply zone. So overall daily time frame was still bearish, but what I was anticipating was if you look to the left and see where price stopped before this push down, you can see that it stopped just before sweeping the liquidity level, right? So when you often see a situation like this, what we're anticipating is for price to very likely gravitate towards that liquidity level before the real move back to the lows comes back into play. So in this case, what I saw as well, if we head over to the 1 hour time frame, you can see that sort of all of this week and all of last week, price was presenting some very clear bullish order flow and structure. This was the initial change of character that price presented after grabbing these lows. It then continued to present this clear order flow and structure after sweeping these lows, created a new breaker structure right here. And then we kind of just had this consolidation period. Price broke out of it. I wasn't viewing this as a structure though. The reason is, you know, you may be tempted to mark this on as a breaker structure, but essentially I was just viewing this as a liquidity level because I knew that based on how it was moving, price was very likely going to gravitate towards and take out these previous lows. So what I saw on Thursday morning, and this is also one of the key characteristics of the yen pairs that I mentioned in the live call if you guys saw the clip. So one of the key characteristics of these yen pairs is the fact that very often they'll make these impulsive moves like this counter to the trend. So at the time it was bullish, we then have this big sell-off. So the characteristic is that it looks like it's about to reverse, but then very often this will just be used as an intentional grab of liquidity for price to then ultimately continue in that prevailing trend direction. So in this case, bullish. So what I saw on Thursday morning was that price had come down. We had grabbed this 4 hour low to the left. Obviously a very clear liquidity area that price has just taken out. So this is when I hopped over to the M5 time frame. If you look at when London session opened as well, and if we just rewind the price slightly to here, what we can see is that this is Asia session, right? So if we actually just go ahead and see when I got onto the chart, so the low has been swept, right? But what I was looking for is this. So London session opens here. We come back down, re-grab that Asia low, show very clear bullish intent to the upside after price broke the current lower high in this 5-minute downtrend. So that is all I was essentially waiting for. I was waiting to see if price could break bullish on the M5 time frame for it to realign with that higher time frame bullish narrative. And then the next step I was looking for was just very simply a retracement into an area of demand, because just thinking about this logically, we wouldn't want to buy all the way up here with, for example, a stop below this low, because it's just going to completely ruin the risk to reward of the trade. So I was being patient, and inside VIP, some of the members as well were also looking to capitalize on this. I didn't set the limit because I don't trade UJ, but some of the members set the limit. Stops were just below this area, and the reason is because I thought maybe price could also retest this demand, but if it does that and if it comes lower than that, I want to be out of the trade, just essentially admitting that the position was wrong. And then the target we were looking at, so inside the group, what I essentially teach is as a mechanical risk to reward system of just using a 1 to 3 risk to reward. So what we were looking to do is just simply target that 1 to 3, because I was very much anticipating that price would at least touch this liquidity level before any selling resumed, if we were wrong about that higher time frame bias. And then as you guys can see, that did play out. Did hang around the entry for a while, so this one did require a bit of patience. But one of the things with my strategy as well is that I don't tamper with them. I don't do any active risk. I don't do any active sort of management of the trades. I simply let them play out to stop loss or TP. And this is based on data that I found, which proves that approach is the most profitable for me. So as you guys can see, eventually it does push up and hit TP. And you can also see, if we go to the group, that some of the members did manage to capitalize on this. So for example, here we had that UJ buy, as you guys can see right there. So that was the trade. I hope you all enjoyed this trade breakdown. So now, while we wait for the other trades to develop for today to see if price can maybe come towards our POIs, since it does need that bit more time to develop, I'm going to take this time, work on other things, go and hit a workout, then maybe cook some food. So I will catch you guys after that. Alright guys, so just got done with the run, had lunch and showered up and everything. So it is approaching the end of the day now and I haven't taken any trades today. So that's completely fine. One of the things that I always tell the guys inside VIP is that you don't need to be trading every day. I think sometimes people come into trading with this wrong mindset that because they're a trader, right, they need to be sat here placing trades all day or actively trading. Whereas in trading, the truth is that the most money is essentially made when you're waiting for those perfect trades to execute on. So for example, you could literally take one trade in the whole month, make 3%, and then that is, for me, $3,000 on a 100K funded account. So you literally could only take one trade in the whole month and then make, you know, a decent income from that. So what I'm about to do now, I'm about to do my sort of weekly review, weekly ASR, so advanced self-review. For anybody that has been following for quite a while, you know I talk about this a lot, and it is basically going back through doing these regular performance reviews just to see how well you followed your plan, were there any mistakes you made, which trades did you miss, why did you miss them, and all of that sort of thing. So I'll take you along with me and I'll show you exactly how I do this, because I think this is going to help a lot of you guys out. It is one of the processes that I really emphasize to the guys inside VIP as one of the things that really helped me to elevate my trading and has just been a massive game changer for me. So let's head over to the laptop now and I'll take you through how I would go about doing that. Alright guys, so this is how I would go about doing the ASR sessions. So I essentially have this trading journal inside Notion that I have sort of curated for myself, and essentially all it is a compilation of the monthly and weekly reviews. I also have the quarterly reviews down here, and then I have my actual trading journal right here as well. This one is pretty self-explanatory. It's where I journal any of the trades which I take. So if I take a position, I'll journal it here along with the screenshots, the analysis, and any of the emotional factors that came into play. So just kind of documenting the trades I take, the emotions that I experience during the trade, just so we can identify those sort of common patterns and common characteristics of winning trades, of losing trades, and all of that sort of thing. But the thing I want to go through today, right, and the thing that I'm about to do is essentially do this weekly performance review and this weekly ASR session where I go back through the price action essentially and just do an overall performance review of how the week went. So what I'll simply do, you guys can see right here, we have one for every single week of the year. And I'll do this on a Friday evening or a Saturday morning. And if we just open up one of these, right, essentially what I'm documenting the number of wins, the number of losses, obviously the total percentage return as well, any of the trades which I took, and then also any of the missed opportunities. So this doesn't have to be, for example, if price comes close to a limit and then, for example, misses the limit order. This could simply just be a trade that was completely valid for me, but for example, it happened in Asia session, so I didn't manage to capitalize on it. Or for example, I was out and wasn't monitoring the charts and I missed it for that reason. It could be any reason really, but the point is, this, for me at least, is the sort of the most important part of the ASR session, because here is where I get to build up that catalog of what those winning positions look like, so that I can look back on them, sort of commit them to memory, and then take that forward in order to capitalize on those sorts of setups going forward. So let's imagine if we get up trading view, for example, this week I had one missed opportunity, which was on Euro USD at the beginning of the week. So if we just go through that, actually let's go through a gold trade. The gold one was a lot clearer for you guys to see. So essentially what I was doing, right, or what I would be doing with this ASR session is, for the pairs that I trade, so gold, Euro USD and GBP USD, I would first of all rewind price to the beginning of the week like this, back test it, go through and sort of just as if I was normally back testing, I would just go through, play price, and then execute any of the trades that I either missed or did actually take, just so again I'm training my mind to see the setup that I'm looking for over and over again. I'm committing it to memory. I'm training the part of the brain called the reticular activating system, which is essentially the part which is involved in pattern recognition. You get to, the more you train it, the more quickly you can identify these sorts of setups, and then obviously the more quickly you can react and execute those in the live market. So quick example here, let's imagine this was a mistrade that I had on gold. All I was simply looking at was the fact that price was overall in this bullish trend higher time frame. It was parabolic as well, so we weren't really expecting any deep retracements. We were just expecting a small pullback before the continuations. On Friday evening, price grabbed this previous low, and then on the M5, if we look at what happened, we saw price shift bullish just here. So beforehand, it was in this downtrend on the 5-minute, but once that low was taken out, it did end up flipping bullish. As you guys can see right here, we created that higher high. So all I wait for then, it's the same setup every single time. I wait for a pullback into an area of imbalance, and then we look to buy price from there via a pending limit order. So here we can see we have this area of imbalanced demand. We have a clear level of liquidity just above it. So the trade that I actually missed right here was this sort of position, and I was targeting this previous high just up here. It was slightly higher than this for around a 1 to 3, because I always use a 1 to 3 risk to reward. And this trade did eventually hit TP, as you guys can see. If we just quickly play this on, so price eventually taps into our entry and then pushes up, hits TP. But the reason I missed this trade, so just a bit of context as well before I say this. Last Friday, this low right here was the point of interest me and VIP were looking at for the longs. A few of them did manage to get in on this, but I didn't personally. And the reason this was a missed opportunity for me was because if you look at the timing right here, you can see that when price broke this 5-minute structure, which is when the trade became valid for me, it was already 4 p.m. on a Friday evening, and I'm not personally looking to hold trades over the weekend, particularly on gold at the moment with the potential for big gaps due to some of the news events going on. So I missed it. Completely valid reason why I missed it. I was just simply not looking at the charts. I wasn't looking and wasn't interested in getting involved in a position that late on a Friday evening. If I had already been in a trade, then yeah, I would have held it through the weekend. But because I wasn't already in one, and because that trade did become valid only on Friday evening, it wasn't valid for me personally. But yeah, what I would simply do here, right, is I'll go back over to the trade journal. I'll open up this missed trades tab. And here is when I'm documenting the sort of data behind the trade and all of the trade specifics. So symbol and direction, obviously that would be gold buys. The date, profit and loss. So if it's a missed opportunity, I'll just record the risk to reward. So this one was a 1 to 3. Typically, I will always just target a mechanical 1 to 3 risk to reward, but there are a few different exceptions to that, which I explain in detail inside VIP. But for the sake of this video, for example, I would just put 3%. Even though it was a missed opportunity. And then technical analysis, that is essentially what I just discussed prior to this, when I just bullet point what made me look for the trade, what made it valid, what were the confluences involved. Psychology, so normally if this was a trade that I actually took, this would be where I would journal any of the emotional aspects of the trade. So how sort of well did I manage my emotions during the trade? Was I making any irrational decisions such as closing early or canceling the limit before the trade became invalidated, that sort of thing. But with a missed trade, this is obviously a lot harder to do because you didn't actually execute the trade, so there's no emotions involved. But instead, what I'll do here is I'll jot down the reasons why I missed the trade. So for example, if in this case it's pretty self-explanatory, it's just because the timing was not conducive to my trading plan and it's not something I would look to enter. But for example, if I had missed the trade because I had fear of entry and didn't execute based on that reason, then I would also put that here, right? So I would put I canceled the limit because I was afraid of losing the trade, or I canceled prematurely for any number of reasons, that sort of thing. But yeah, this is one of the main and most important parts about it, because this is where really you can start to identify those common mistakes and then hence improve going forward. Some lessons as well, I would jot those down if I think there are any. I will always typically try to find at least one, even if it has to be kind of contrived and I have to really search for one. I was always try and just put down a lesson here. And then I've got screenshots of before and after. And then with the ASR, I'll very simply just do this for all of the missed trades that I took. I'll jot down any of the trades that I took as well, and then just do a sort of like a weekly summary of the total gain, total wins, losses, break evens, and then also just summarize the main lessons learned and that sort of thing. And like I said as well, I will do this for every single week. I also do it at the end of every single quarter and also at the end of every single month. As you guys can see here, I'll go back through the entire month and then do an ASR session for that. So for example, let me just show you guys one that I've actually done. So February week 2, right? Didn't take any trades this week. This was the brief summary. You guys can pause the screen and just read through that if you want. And then missed trades, for example, here we had a Euro USD buy for a 3% gain. Again, you guys can pause the screen here and read through it if you want. I'm not going to read through the entire thing. And then very simply, I've just got screenshots of every time frame that I would have used here. And then same for every single trade for that week. So yeah, guys, I think this video has been long enough. So that is the end of the day in the life. Let me know if you guys did enjoy this type of video. It's my kind of first attempt at making one of these. So let me know if you want me to do more of these in future. But that is the end of the day, and I hope you all guys have a great rest of the day, and I will catch you in the next video.